Hi everyone, so today I wanted to do a video on how to have a successful iPod wedding. I know that this is a really popular option for a lot of people right now, especially if you don't really want to invest the money in a DJ or a band, or you don't have the funds available to invest in one, or it's just not really your style. This is actually a really great option for you. And I know that some DJs out there might be killing me saying, why are you promoting this? And I just want to clarify that I'm not necessarily promoting having an iPod wedding. I just wanted to present it to you as a viable option. You shouldn't feel bad for having an iPod wedding. I know that personally, Josh and I, for the venue that we had and the style wedding that we had, it was a very small, intimate group of about 75 people. A DJ just really wasn't our style, and we would have loved to have a live band, but we just weren't able to afford it. So we did opt for the iPod wedding, and I don't think anyone noticed, no one cared. It was very smooth. Our day of coordinator kind of manned the station and watched for all of our song transitions, and everything was great. Like, we had absolutely no issues. I know that iPod weddings can kind of get a bad rap in the wedding community, saying, oh, so many problems arise from having the iPod wedding. It was all disorganized, the wrong songs were playing, and there's tons of YouTube videos out there about iPod weddings gone wrong. But I wanted to bring you this video to share some points with you and some organization tips to kind of prevent those things from happening, to stay on top of it, and just make sure that you know that you can have this affordable iPod wedding option if you really want to, and there are definitely ways to make it very successful. So let's go ahead and get started. The first tip I have for you is to actually use a laptop or a portable computer rather than using an iPod. I know that the iPod wedding, it's actually kind of a misnomer, because most of my clients will use, if they're having an iPod wedding, they'll use their laptop. And this is just a lot easier for the person manning the music station throughout the evening, just because with an iPod, especially for volume and like scrolling through your playlist, you have to scroll a lot like this and go like this, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to actually have smooth song transitions and to, like, you know, turn down the volume or turn it up. But when you have a laptop, you have really easy means to do that with the mouse feature and everything, and just makes it a lot easier and a lot more organized for the person that's actually manning the station. Number 2, organize your playlist using number systems in iTunes, or again, whatever program you decide to use. This makes it so much easier for the person manning the station, again, just to make sure that they know the order of all your songs, they can easily find your playlist. And this is the system that I always recommend to people. Label all your playlists with numbers. For example, 1-ceremony music, 2-cocktail hour music, etc. It just makes it so much easier to find everything, because iTunes, whatever program you're using, will automatically bump up those playlists to the top of your list, so they're all right there in a row for whoever's, you know, organizing the songs to figure out and see. It's very easy to follow. If you want to get even more specific, what I recommend is doing breaking down your ceremony music. For example, if you have different songs for different entrances, you can do, for example, you know, 1-seating of the parents, 2-wedding party processional, 3-bride's entrance, 4-recessional music. Usually for cocktail hour, it's all one playlist. Nothing really needs to be broken up because there's not a lot of events going on. It's all just mingling and talking and catching up. For reception, you can do the exact same thing, continuing on with the numbering system. Not sure where I left off, but you could do, for example, 5-wedding party introductions, 6-bride and groom introductions, 7- first dance song, etc., and break it down like that. And that makes it so much easier for everyone to kind of follow what you're doing, whoever's manning the station. And then everything's really organized and easy to follow. It makes for really smooth transitions throughout the evening. Use functions in iTunes or whatever program you're using to allow for smooth transitions from song to song. The reason the DJs obviously sound so professional and keep the party going throughout the night is because they don't let songs stop and then start. Everything kind of rolls into one song, into the next song, into the next, and it's very smooth, and there's no harsh transitions. It's just really nice, and it kind of keeps the party alive and going. So there is a function in iTunes. If you go to your iTunes program, if you do decide to use iTunes, you go up to Preferences and click on the menu option that says Playback. And there should be a cross-fading option for you. You can kind of play with that and see what works best for your style and what your preferences are, but that makes it really easy to kind of keep the flow of the evening going throughout the reception. Number 4, you really do have to assign someone to be an MC for the night. Whether you want to have certain family members assigned to certain different roles or announcements, like for example, maybe you want to have mom announce your cake cutting, or you want to have dad announce your first dance, or what have you. That's a really good way to kind of involve people. But if you don't want to get that complicated, just assigning one person to be an MC for the night, or master and mistress of ceremonies, or what have you, is a really good way to stay organized. You kind of have to have one when you have an iPod wedding if you do choose to do events throughout the evening, because if the first dance kind of just starts all of a sudden, especially if you have a larger group, it's kind of awkward and you're like, oh, what's going on over here? And it just doesn't really seem very organized. I know that it kind of sounds weird that a wedding reception has to be so organized. But it kind of does. Otherwise, people feel left out and they don't know what's going on. It can be kind of awkward and confusing. So definitely assign an MC to the wedding reception and just kind of make sure they understand the playlist, the order of events for the evening, and make sure they just have an understanding of what they need to do, and you should be good to go. Number 5, you really kind of have to sit down and think about the flow of your reception and your order of events and how your playlist should be organized according to all that. Every reception is different as far as order of events. It's really up to you and what your preferences are, but your playlist kind of has to reflect that, especially for the reception. And here's an example to kind of explain what I'm talking about. If you want your first dance to kind of lead into the dance floor opening for the night, you're going to have your first dance song at the top of your dance floor opening playlist or your dancing playlist or what have you, just because it's going to be kind of awkward if you do your first dance and then the music totally stops for a few seconds while the playlist restarts over to the dancing music. Usually what I see with weddings is that the first dance will end, and if the dance floor opens immediately following, the DJ will roll right into the next dancing song, and while that song is starting, he or she will announce that the dance floor is open. It kind of gets everyone in the mood. It kind of actually brings more people to the dance floor. Just makes, again, for a really smooth transition. So that's something that you're going to have to think about in how you order your playlist, or what songs go in what playlist, and which one is first, which one is second, things like that. So that's something to definitely think about when you're putting together your playlists. When you're putting together your playlist in iTunes, or again, whatever program that you're using, but I'm going to be specifically talking about a function in iTunes, make sure that all of your songs are relatively the same volume. It can be really awkward if one song is kind of quiet or normal sounding, then the next song is really, really loud and no one can hear themselves talk. It kind of just makes for an awkward atmosphere. So in iTunes, go ahead and go back into preferences, click on that playback option again, just like before, and just make sure that sound check is clicked, and make sure that all of your songs kind of sound relatively the same. In iTunes, because it's not really a super advanced program for music editing and stuff, it's not going to make a huge difference, but Josh and I did it because we had some songs that were really loud and some that were really soft. Like our oldie songs were relatively soft, and then like our more modern songs were relatively loud in comparison, but it did kind of help to neutralize everything and kind of keep everything at least on the same track, I guess, with volume, and it did help. So just make sure that you do that after you kind of finalize your playlist. It was one of the very, very last things that we did a couple days before our wedding, and it definitely helped a lot. Last tip, make sure that you go through all of the songs that you've included in your playlist, and make sure, especially for reception, that none of them have really long, quiet introductions that you're not going to really be able to hear, or like a lot of dead silence on the end of the song, because what will happen is, even if you have that function in iTunes that allows for smooth transitions, you have to program it by the second. So usually it's like a 2 to 3 second interval when you do a song transition, but if you have a song that has a really long beginning, like for example, Living on a Prayer has a really long kind of quiet introduction that's probably like 10 or 15 seconds long, the smooth transition feature in iTunes will still make it so that it's kind of a long pause and awkward. If people are talking at a reception, you're not going to hear that beginning music because it's really quiet, and it's going to sound like it's complete dead silence, and people are going to be like, well, what's going on? Did the party stop? Did the iPod station break? And it kind of just makes for a really strange atmosphere. So go ahead and use some song editing software in either iTunes. I think iTunes does have it where you can clip songs, or some other like fancy programming software if you're really good at this stuff. I think we just used iTunes, and just go through each song and just make sure that it actually starts when the loud music starts. And by loud, I don't mean like, you know, crazy music or anything. I just mean like when the actual song starts, just to allow, again, for smooth transition. And if you really want that song to be kept in its original form, just copy it and leave it in your folder. That way when you're listening to it like on your iPod for just, you know, walking around or running or whatever, you still have the original version, but you have the clipped version to make for a smooth transition in your actual reception playlist. And the same goes for the tail end of the song. It will, again, just seem really choppy and it won't have a very smooth transition. So just go ahead and make sure that you edit all of your songs. I've included a tutorial down below in the information bar. It's just a link to a tutorial that I found just doing a quick Google search that shows you how you can clip your songs and just make sure that your playlist just kind of flows, again, from one song into the next, and just really keeps the dance party going throughout the night. So that's it, guys. Those are my tips for having a successful iPod wedding. Those have worked really, really well for me in the past. If any of you, maybe you have a little bit more experience doing this, let me know in the information box below if you have any other additional tips, especially because I'm sure brides will want to hear that as well, and grooms if they're looking to do an iPod wedding. Just as much information as we can provide, the better. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope that you guys found this useful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!